Okay, so many of you have had many teachings on emptiness, and I think you have a general sense of it. So I thought for doing our objective meditation on emptiness, I would combine it with another concept you know, which is Vajrasattva. So Vajrasattva is purification practice, right? We love purification. Purification, very important. Clears obstacles, right? Helps us not suffer. Renders the seeds of past negative karma impotent, right? Unable to bear the fruit of suffering. So purification, right? Thumbs up. Yes? Okay. Conventional purification needs 4 opponent powers, right? You need to have your refuge, you need regret, you need remedy, you need resolve. Okay? That's how you burn the seeds so they don't give you suffering. But you can also just meditate on emptiness. That also purifies negative karma. Because why did you create negative karma? Because you hadn't realized emptiness. Yes. So, the innate ignorance is the deep, deep problem, so we can go to the deep, deep solution. But for us, we haven't realized emptiness. So meditating on emptiness has kind of an ambivalent effect on our purification, because our realization isn't there yet, our knowledge isn't precise yet. So what we can do is make our Vajrasattva practice more powerful by remembering emptiness at the same time. And this is also a really good way of de-identifying from your mistakes. So when you're doing purification, you're remembering the things you've done wrong, and then often you feel crap. And you think, well, I'm a mess. Right? And now I have more evidence. Right? And you think, okay, I'm purifying. But you think, oh gosh, all this stuff I don't remember, and all this stuff I'm definitely going to do again, and it can be sort of a heavy thing, which is why we often add a rejoicing practice after purification. We think, okay, now let's think about all the good things we're doing. Let's think about all the positive actions, have a moment of rejoicing. Right? So this is really good conventional work. But what we can do is think, all right, first, negative actions of body. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. They are empty of inherent existence because they dependently arise, specifically this mistake I'm purifying. Okay, so, I don't know, act of killing, you were cleaning your kitchen, you wiped over ants, and you didn't care. Bad. Don't do it. Stop it. Okay? I know you, I see you. Don't do it. But you did it. So, how do you purify it? Okay? You purify by thinking, killing the ants is empty of inherent existence because it dependently arises. If there hadn't been an ant there, if I hadn't needed to clean, if the way I was taught to clean hadn't been present in this way, I wouldn't have done it. If I didn't have the stress and the afflictions that I brought to this moment, I would have had more time and space to rescue them and put them outside. If I had a stronger familiarization with the preservation of life and the importance of preservation of life, I would have just kicked into that saving life modality much more easily. So it is a dependent arising that I did the wrong thing. I didn't do it alone. So I'm going to have to experience the result for it, because I'm the one that created it, but nothing is ever done alone, good and bad. So you think, okay, if I'd been brought up Buddhist, I wouldn't have done it. If I had more space and time that day, I wouldn't have done it. If I wasn't so tired, if I wasn't so grumpy, if the ant wasn't there, if the cleaning products, blah, 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 right? Many things came together for the mistake. Many things came together for the mistake. And so you're not letting yourself off the hook and saying, therefore it was not a mistake. You're saying it is a mistake, but it's not only mine. And how heavy or not heavy it is very much based on whether or not you purified it, whether or not you had any kind of regret. So you also can think how wonderful it is that I see killing to be a negative action. There are many people who it never would occur to them that would be a bad thing to do. So they would just do it carelessly, thoughtlessly, with no guilt, no regret, no remorse, happily, thinking the kitchen is cleaner now, and do it all the time, accumulating huge amounts of negative karma constantly without even realizing it. So how wonderful it is I even have the space to go, whoops, right? Which is also a dependent arising. So you take something like that and then you think, all right, it is empty. However, in the relative world, that was a breach of ethics. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Move on. Do you see how you can kind of join them together?
Yes, and also like analyzing your mistakes makes you understand your own conditions and be more compassionate towards yourself, right, Shoko?
Exactly. Exactly, and so it's a delicate dance because it's very easy when you're investigating dependent arising to basically be giving yourself excuses, and say, oh, well, it's not my fault, blah, 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 blah. What you're really just saying is, here's the whole spectrum of conditions for this thing to happen. I am one of the conditions. However, there are many conditions that came together for this negative thing to happen. Just like when you do something amazing and good and, altruistic and generous, also many conditions had to come together for you to do that. So then it cuts the potential for pride. You just think, oh, it's good, it happened. Yay, I was a part of a good thing. Just like in the purification, you think, oh no, I was part of a bad thing. But just part of. And it wasn't me. It was a symptom, it was a behavior of innate ignorance. It was a symptom, a behavior of negative states of mind, all of which are removable, none of which are me. We have this expression in Western Montana, they came by it honest. Yes, meaning all of your negative actions and all of your bad behaviors and habits and quirks and personality traits, they make sense given your history. They say they came by it honest. They say, oh, look, so-and-so, they're such a jerk, they're horrible to be around, but they came by it honest, meaning they had a rough life. No, it means they had a rough life. It makes sense they're like this.
There's conditions.
There's conditions, and like valid conditions in a way. It's not like they're just innately a jerk. They are a jerk because of reasons, which then softens your heart towards them. So it's a way of like old people telling us to be patient. They say, look, I know he's hard work, but he came by it honest. Right? And so what we're trying to remember is that we have to take responsibility for our negative actions without putting fault or blame or heaviness. Just kind of freeing up the space. So we'll do the simple Vajrasattva with the simple Vajrasattva mantra, because maybe not everybody knows the long one. So the short Vajrasattva mantra is just Om Vajrasattva Hum. Easy. Okay? And we will do body analysis with empty because dependent, and then 7 mantras, then speech, then mind. Yeah. So it's a good way of making your purification even more powerful before you've realized emptiness directly, but it helps you create the cause to realize emptiness directly. So back to posture. And breathe yourself back into your body for a moment. A few intentional deep breaths. And starting with a basis of emptiness, thinking the emptiness mantra, Om Savavashuddha Savadhamma Savavashuddho Ham. Everything, all phenomena, are empty of inherent existence because they dependently arise. Holding that spacious truth that applies to all things. From emptiness, arises Vajrasattva above the crown of your head, radiant white, made of transparent light, holding a Vajra in his right hand, a bell in his left, seated in the Vajra position. From emptiness arises this Buddha. And think that this radiant white light above your crown, with Vajrasattva at its center, represents and embodies your object of refuge. The qualities of compassion and kindness, wisdom and ability. A refuge that is free from fear, skilled in freeing others from fear, impartial and unbiased, with equal care for all, embodied by this light. And think that this refuge is dependently arisen. The enlightened mind, the mind of Vajrasattva, countless causes and conditions came together for this development into the perfected state. There is no inherently existent Vajrasattva. Vajrasattva is empty of inherent existence, because he too dependently arises. And so holding awareness of Vajrasattva, the representative of your refuge, the embodiment of your refuge, confess your physical mistakes, negativities of body, actions of killing, of stealing, and of sexual misconduct, harm you've done physically. Mentally lay it bare before Vajrasattva's compassionate gaze. List these things. Particularly anything recent or anything that weighs on you heavily. Allow yourself to expose these mistakes before the compassionate gaze of your refuge. And this regret is just recognizing a fault to be a fault, while at the same time bring in awareness of emptiness. None of these mistakes were done from me alone. Countless conditions came together, inner conditions and outer conditions. Think of some of those conditions. Remember dependent arising. To prove to yourself these mistakes are empty. Not escaping responsibility, not excusing or saying something bad was good, but just acknowledging the spectrum of parts, of conditions and causes that came together. There's no one thing to blame. And think to Vajrasattva, may I purify these mistakes. May I change the habits that created them. May I cut the root of ignorance. And in response, streams of white light flow down from Vajrasattva's heart center, down through the crown of your head, down and through your whole body, flushing your system clean, purifying those mistakes of body. The mistakes are dispelled and dissolve into space. Holding that visualization, we add the mantra 7 times. Om Vajrasattva Hum, 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 Om Vajrasattva Hum. And think, what can I physically refrain from that is negative? Acknowledging dependent arising, acknowledging the spectrum of conditions. What can I practically change, even in just a small way, today? Ways to protect life, the possessions of others, the relationships of others. Ways to refrain from harm. and shift to speech. And think of those negative actions of lying, of divisive speech, of harsh speech, idle gossip. And just very clearly, without emotion or identification, list faults to be false. Anything recent or anything heavy, name it to yourself under Vajrasattva's compassionate gaze, and bring to it an awareness of dependent arising to prove to yourself the way that they're empty. Negativities of speech. And you can think broadly that the cause of these mistakes of speech, as well as the effects of these acts of speech, are completely empty. Why you did it, and how it landed, all of it dependent arising. And request Vajrasattva, please help me purify these negativities of speech. Please help me break the pattern of doing them. Please help me cut the root, ignorance itself. And in response, Vajrasattva sends down streams of white nectar light through the crown of your head, down and through your whole body, flushing your system clean, purifying your speech. Adding the mantra to the visualization. Om Vajrasattva Hum, 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 Om Vajrasattva. And feel that those mistakes of speech have been purified. And shift to mind. And lay bare those mistakes of mind. Covetousness and habits of attachment. Ill will and habits of anger. Wrong views and all forms of ignorance. Just think about lately what delusions have been most dominant in your mind, particularly those that you allowed to stay. Recognize them, and then bring in an awareness of their empty nature, using the reasoning of dependent arising. What are the conditions that perpetuated these negative states of mind? No one thing to blame. No one person to blame. No one condition at fault. Yet there was fault, dependently arisen. So acknowledging without identifying. Taking responsibility without taking blame. And request, Vajrasattva, please help me purify the mistakes of mind. And in response, streams of white nectar light from his heart center to your crown, down and through, flushing you clean, purifying the mind. Adding the mantra. Om Vajrasattva Hum, 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 Om Vajrasattva Hum. And feeling the mind purified, using the power of resolution to make a plan for speech and for mind. What can you do instead of the negative action in the future, even if only for the rest of the day? Think in terms of verbal actions, and then in terms of mental actions. What can be different? And by remembering dependent arising, you don't overestimate. And repeat to yourself your physical resolution as well, reinforcing all three. Small practical promises to yourself before Vajrasattva's gaze. And through these four opponent powers, together with remembering emptiness, feel that these mistakes have in fact been purified, together with anything similar done in the past that you can't remember. And think that the momentum of the habits to do these is interrupted. And Vajrasattva dissolves into light and absorbs into you, blessing your body, speech, and mind. And dedicate, through the power of this practice, may I quickly become Vajrasattva and lead all other living beings into that enlightened state. The agent of negative karma, myself, is empty of inherent existence. The action of creating negative karma is empty of inherent existence. The negative karma created, empty of inherent existence, as well as how it is experienced, who it is towards, and everything. And you can relax your attention. So when you're doing any kind of practice, remembering emptiness at some point is going to make it better, at least at the end. When you're doing Tantra, you must remember emptiness, otherwise it becomes more cause for samsara. So when you're doing Tantra, and Tantra is briefly discussed in this chapter, you're remembering again and again everything dissolves into emptiness or is purified in emptiness, and then from emptiness this arises or that arises or this arises or that arises. And that helps you understand that what is arising is dependent, and it helps you purify ordinary appearance. Our ordinary appearance is never challenged, we just take things to be inherently existent without questioning them. With Tantra, you're not just remembering that, then you're projecting the perfected state over the top, taking the result as the path. So you're purifying everything by remembering that it's empty, and then it arises in the purified aspect that it will be in the future. So you're mixing those two together again and again, and at different parts in the practice it will remind you to do so. Then the last meditation is on the Buddha, and in this one we're specifically meditating on single point concentration. And when you meditate on the Buddha's form, you're really making sure that you're not kind of getting lost in how perfect it is. You try and see a perfectly rendered image of the Buddha, and then close your eyes and bring it into your mind's eye. And it might just be the outline, or it might just be the color. Whatever appears is fine. Just hold your attention on it and allow the details to gently show themselves as you get more mental clarity and familiarity with the image. So it will surprise you how vague it will be, right? So you've seen a picture of the Buddha 1,000,000 times, and then you close your eyes and bring it to your mind's eye, and you're like, wait, which hand is doing what? And yet you've seen it 1,000,000 times. So some of that is merit, some of that is familiarity. It's many things, but just have a general impression, hold your attention on it. It's said that doing single-pointed meditation on the Buddha is one of the best forms of single-pointed meditation, because you're building familiarity with a positive object. You could do single-pointed meditation on a neutral object, like the moon or something, and also develop single-pointed attention, but you wouldn't also be doing that efficient method of building familiarity with something positive. So there's that tie-in benefit when you use an object like that. So that's basically all of Chapter 6. Your homework, should you choose to accept it, is Chapter 7. Okay, your choice. But it's a good chapter. Some of it will be familiar, some of it will be new, but it's a nice chapter, Chapter 7. Do you have any questions before we call it a day? Or things that you want to make sure we do next time related to meditation? No interpretive dance.
So maybe you just said it and I didn't understood. The object of emptiness. So what is the object?
In what context?
I mean, I don't know. Did you speak about it right now?
Oh, are you talking just about the point itself?
Yes.
So when we talk about emptiness, we can't just talk about emptiness. We have to apply it to something.
Right.
So in this case, we did the emptiness of our negativities, the emptiness of Vajrasattva. So you could do the emptiness of the nature of mind.
Meditation.
Well, it is an insight meditation that then can become a Shine meditation. So with enough familiarity, then you can stabilize single-pointedly. So when you're meditating on emptiness, of course you can think all phenomena are empty, but you're still thinking all phenomena and attributing the characteristic of emptiness to it. So you can't just think emptiness, otherwise it goes into nihilism too quickly. So it's the emptiness of phenomena, or the emptiness of your negative states of mind, yeah. So at the end, what you're thinking, if you're not doing emptiness anywhere else, is thinking the agent, the person doing it, the object, what you are doing it towards, and the result, agent, action, object, the action, all of it, empty of inherent existence. So sometimes they say the 3 spheres of emptiness: agent, action, object. You're just remembering that's empty because dependent, that's empty because dependent, that's empty because dependent. And immediately it frees up any kind of fundamentalism. Because sometimes we can, especially with higher things like Tantra, think that it's somehow separate from the rest of Buddhism, and like, I'll just recite this magic spell and magically be purified, as if you can be a passive participant in your own purification. You know, you have to be an active participant in your own purification by engaging with, analytically, seeing a fault to be a fault, etc. So, like that. Alright, so we'll dedicate. Janchu Sancho Rinpoche, Make Panam Ke Yuchi, Ke Panyam Pame Pai, Gone Gondu Pelwa Shoa, Tony Dawa Rinpoche, Make Panam Ke Yuchi, Ke Panyam Pame Pai, Gone Gondu Pelwa